I've been around the block. I've been here for a while. At first I was very shy. I had to learn how to not be shy. The difference with animation and live action is really, it's more about the sound. It's the fact that everything is created from nothing for animation. So everything is built. You don't have to have, you can have birds that don't sound like birds. You can have an air conditioner hum. You cannot have an air conditioner hum. Cars, what's the car going to sound like? So sound design, also the dialogue, everything is, we don't hear anything when we start. And I think that the fantasy element of that is maybe a little bit more amplified because of that, because the whole sound design kind of concept is maybe a little bit more intense with animation. But as far as storytelling, I don't really think there's really any difference. It's really all about the story. Who are we following? Are we following our main protagonist? Are we observers through our music? Are we mainly there to reinforce something, or are we there to add something that's not there? So it's kind of an extra layer. It's a secret weapon of emotional kind of manipulation. My animation career is definitely, I would say, the bread and butter of my life. I have been so fortunate to have work for so many years. I work with two other brilliant composers, Michael McQuistion and Christopher Carter, and we have a group that we call ourselves Dynamic Music Partners. We compose individually, but we collaborate in the sense that with animation, the turnaround is really quick. Generally. And for animation series, there's so many of them, one after the other, and just to keep the quality of work high. Tahlequah, the whale, the film that is at this festival, now that's a different kind of, that's more of an art film, not a mainstream project, and that came about through my relationship with the director, and that's just me. So, but compared to narrative feature films and narrative television live action, I think it's, again, we come back to story. It's in perspective. Some directors want to have a very thematic score with melodies that people remember. Other directors would prefer to have more of a kind of just an atmospheric sheen to add, or an atmospheric tone of some sort. It can still have melody, but it's not like you necessarily have to have every score be something that you're humming when you're leaving the theater. So it's I guess it's back to that word that we all kind of get sick of, but it's called a collaboration. It's in the true essence. If it's true collaboration, it can be pretty magical. Historically, it's very much at the end. Historically, for all of the animation work, it's been sometimes one is hired early, but there is a little bit of an advantage to not looking at all the rough animation that comes back and seeing maybe a first pass of an edited episode or film, because then as a composer, I can be the audience, and I can, the producer in the case of the animation work will watch, and it's like, is she crying? Is she scared? Is it, and if something isn't working, or if something already is working, I can be a very good gauge of how music could help, or where maybe something is so strong you don't need any music here. Maybe the dialogue is just so captivating already. What are you wanting? Why do you want music here? Sometimes I talk a director out of music. I'm going to be starting my second feature with Zintar Dreibergs, who's the director of Blizzard of Souls, for which I was shortlisted. They're in the midst of filming a film called Escape Net, and I'm supposed to be spotting sometime late summer, and then record maybe in December, I think. And so in that case, I did already write some themes. I worked on a little bit on the sizzle reel. So thematically, I think I have some kind of idea of what it's going to be. It's not going to be the same as Blizzard of Souls at all. Completely different style of score. But I'm very much looking forward to that. Well, this new film is different because we had the equivalent of many first dates, because when I worked on Blizzard of Souls, I'd only met him a few times, just briefly, and we were still very kind of, I don't want to say afraid of one another, but you have to get to the place where you can say what's on your mind. You can ask stupid questions and ask wonderful questions and just completely reveal yourself to one another so that you feel, basically, any director that's been working on a film, the person has had this baby, they've been holding it, gestating the baby for 9 months. And now it's like, okay, we need the music. And I'm just coming into it, and I want to help bring this into the world. I don't want to be a burden or a distraction or something negative for the director. I want it to be a good experience. So the first time working with Zintas, we had this, he had this expression, this is kind of a traditional thing. Let's go into the next room musically. What would that sound like? What if we try something? Give me something that would be different? So sometimes I would send him something that would be completely different. And it's like, that's too far back. Let's come back about here and then try something. So we had a chance to try a few things before we really, really dug in and just started to work to lock picture for Blizzard of Souls. And that was a great relationship building thing. So I'm hoping that on this second film, when we actually get in the room together, which hopefully I'm trying to get them to come to Los Angeles to visit him and the producer, who are a couple, and it's like, you have to come and visit and take you around, and we can talk about the film and just have a good time and then get going on the writing. In series, often there are many directors. Certain directors will direct certain episodes. If you look at the credits of any television series, so the producer is kind of the central place, the kind of putting it all together. And it doesn't mean that there aren't other opinions. There are often many, many opinions. And the opinions in television, which now I also put into streaming and limited series that have, multiple episodes, you have a lot of cooks. You have the studio, you have the production company, you have whichever streaming service it's going to be on. Sometimes, like with kids stuff, you even have things like people that are in charge of the toys. If you're doing something for little kids, everyone has an opinion, and usually somebody's mother-in-law has an opinion, and and so you have to know who you're going to listen to. Sometimes those people that you don't even know are important to listen to are the key ones. So you just listen, you take it in, and the difficult part is if you get one person who gives you this note and then somebody, and it's completely contrary, then it's like, okay, well, we have a little bit of a problem here. You guys have to talk about it, and then I'll try this and that, but we need to figure out what that is. Well, the Alliance was founded 10 years ago by composer Laura Cartman, who's nominated for an Oscar this year for American Fiction. Miriam Cutler, who's an incredible composer. She's been nominated for Emmy Awards, and she's written mainly documentary features, just hundreds of them. And Chandler Poling, who was a supporter of the Alliance and also worked in PR. So the four of us founded this Alliance because we had met at a luncheon where we realized that, we thought there were just maybe a handful, but at this luncheon, there were like 25 female composers, and it's like, wow, and you and you and you. We really need to band together and just talk about the issues and talk about why we can't, there's the American expression, the glass ceiling, where you can't punch through the glass ceiling. And it started out a little bit more casually, where we would meet, but then we formalized the organization, and we started really working on advocacy and going to studios and trying to increase the numbers of women, the percentage of films scored by women and television series. And it's much easier to advocate for others or for a group than it is just for yourself. Hire me. It's much easier for me to go in and let's say, for example, say to a composer who's been using his assistant, who's a female composer, to write most of the music. And he has written the theme, but she's written most of the score. Composer, why why do you not give her screen credit? You must give her screen credit. Oh, I never thought of it. Okay. So now she has screen credit. He has screen credit. She has screen credit. It helps build her reputation. She has, legitimate credits, helped her get the next job and the next job. So things where sometimes it seems like you ask for what you want, but sometimes you don't think to ask. You're shy. You think you should just get what you deserve. There are a lot of problems still, but I think it's getting better. It's getting better. We have over, gosh, I can't even quote the number correctly because I think it's like 700 now members. And not only do you have to fight, the gender issue with that does still exist with some executives they just don't want to hire. They want to hang out with their buddies, but it's getting the mindset changed, so it's complicated, but the Alliance is a very strong organization. Mentoring, advocacy, concerts, seminars, going to different festivals, and just raising awareness. So I don't feel it is for me. I don't. But I've been around the block. I've been here for a while. At first I was very shy. I had to learn how to not be shy and just say and not be afraid to ask questions too. It's okay. And you don't have to be perfect. Ask questions. If I were a filmmaker working with a composer and the composer had a question about some minuscule, maybe something that the composer thinks is just silly, but just was curious about some small story point, I would be honored. What? Ask me. Let's work together. So I think sometimes there's a shyness. There's also a little bit of I don't know if I should. Kind of a little bit of a timidness, and that hurts women. It does. Learn your craft. I said this at the panel, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So make sure that when you are presenting yourself, you walk with confidence. You know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you better fake it really well until you know how to do it, and learn, ask questions, study. And that by studying, I don't mean necessarily go to university for 10 years. I mean, look at scores, listen to music, listen to what's out there, be a part of the community. I mean, if you're wanting to pitch for a series on Netflix and you don't know what the most popular Netflix shows are right now, or who the composers are, and you don't know the names of who won the Emmy Awards last year, the composers, and which producers are up and coming and have hit shows, or which movie directors are just are interested in collaborating with. If you don't know this information, you get it because the person next to you will know that information. So be educated, cultivate your connections. As awkward as that is, every week I assign this to my students. You reach out to 15 people. It seems just ridiculously hard, but you do it. You do it until it becomes natural, until and you don't ask people to listen to 45 minutes of your music when they don't know who you are. You write to somebody or you call somebody and you say, "Thank you. I loved this film, your film. I love the way that to a cinematographer. I love the way that you worked with your lighting director to get the light to shine just right on the cup of coffee as she took her sip before she left the room." Details that will make the filmmaker feel fantastic. And it will show that you care about the process. So be fully engaged. And when you're done being fully engaged, go on a vacation. Take some time away from this. Spend time with your family. Your life is important. If you're only thinking about this, you're not going to be very good about this. Be an interesting human being. My favorite film score, and I will say that because we're going to, it will be played tonight, is Ennio Morricone's Cinema Paradiso. It's my favorite. But I have so many. But if I have to name one, that's probably my favorite.